So just when you thought it couldn't get any stranger,
Oh,
we go to the charge down, which has been a big discussion lately. And you're not even going to believe this. But I mean, simply the law says it's not knocked on if the ball goes forward immediately after an opponent has kicked it. So now some people have interpreted that a charge down, the ball has to go forward, which is really crazy, right? Because there's no real specific explanation of the charge down. However, back then, it said if a player charges down the ball as an opponent kicks it or immediately after kick, it's not a knock on, though the ball may travel forward, right? So what's not in the new law book, it doesn't say that the ball may travel forward, you know. So the ball traveling in the you know, if you charge it down, it goes behind the person who blocks it, that they actually are calling it not a not a charge down. And then some people also saying it only has to be off the arms, right?
yeah. If for me, again, it's a deliberate act, and if a player hurls himself at the player kicking the ball,
Yeah,
and the ball bounces off him some way,
yeah,
in this instance, the blue is making a deliberate act to play the ball. Therefore,
absolutely.
wherever it hits, it's a charge down
Yeah.
for me.
So I know you're not going to believe this, but around some events in the world, they like high level events, they were talking about that a charge down only has to be forward. So if it hits the player and goes on, you have to apply this law 10.4c, that they're offside, even though, and I'm not going to go through the whole 10-meter law because most of us know it. It said the 10-meter law applies, but not when the ball's charged down. So now the law book says the charge down's only when the ball goes forward, but it says the 10-meter law applies, right, if it goes the other way. So which doesn't make any sense.
No, no.
Doesn't make any sense at all, you know. And then I just thought in our game management guidelines here, it's a little bit simplified, right? So if we look at this visual, plays in front of a teammate who kicks the ball, you know, if they can't move forward and put onside, you know, by the kicker or by a teammate that's onside. And then plays in front of the kicker with intent, got to move back. And one of the things to remember is that at this 10-meter law, you can't be put onside by the opposition. You can only be put onside by your players, right? So the general offside laws don't apply. It's quite different, but then of course, not when there's a charge down. So is it getting confusing for you? It's pretty simple, right? But you can imagine when a lot of people are reading the laws and then suddenly they want to like overcomplicate it. And I think if you don't have that history of law coming back from, what's it, 1862, and how it built up all the way to where we are now, but it's not that confusing, right? Because there's like a legacy law that we have.
Yeah, the old law book, you're right, it is legacy law, but all those things were put in for a reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in doing our spring cleaning in terms of the law, that a lot of the good stuff has been thrown out with the bad stuff. But
Yeah.
you have to remember, most of that stuff, well, all of that stuff was put in for a reason because it's happened in a game in the past.
Yeah.
That's how the law should be applied now. And you've got this build-up of clutter that people wanted to declutter,
Right.
not remembering that a lot of the stuff in there was there for a reason and a good reason.
Yeah. One day we should look at some of those first laws that came out and try and actually interpret them to see, because I don't think they're actually English sentences, but you know, it's a very difficult thing. So then law 10.8 says a player offside under law 10.4c cannot be put onside by any action of an opponent, right? We talked about that. And then this happened in a Premiership game.
Matt Gallagher finding the distance, and that one will go in between the two defenders. controlled, and then touch on the way through. Matt Scott, therefore, is allowed to play it. Got Mike Brown inside. Brown's got supporting players, and one of them charging away is Harry Wells.
Perfect example to play on, right?
Yeah, rub of the green, luck of the laws, call it whatever you like, but the ball was deliberately played by in the touchdown, and as the law's written, as it's deliberately played, and everybody's on and play, off you go.
Absolutely, yeah. And unfortunately, the law book doesn't actually clarify that right now. It doesn't really tell you what a charge down is. So we do have a lot of people in the officiating out there that's gets a little bit confused about this, right? And they go like, well, the 10-meter law applies, all that kind of stuff. But now there would be a situation where the 10-meter law does apply, even though the ball's hit an opponent, right, from a kick.
Yeah, if it goes forward.
But I mean, if I'm standing with my back to the kick and the ball hits me on the head.
Oh yeah. If it just you're not deliberately playing the ball there, it just bounces off you.
Yeah.
So that doesn't put anybody on side.
Right. So so the 10-meter law would apply then still, right? Yeah. But not if it's a charge on. So it's got to be a deliberate act.
Deliberate act, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually put this together for future guidelines here, but this is pretty simple. This is not a knock-on, right? Goes off the arms and goes forward, which it really says in the law book. And this one here is really interesting, right? Because now you're charging the ball down and your own player is in front of you and they play the ball, which means that they will be offside. And I think what happens with a lot of referees is that when there's a charge down, because it's normally quite a loud noise, it gets a bit frantic in that moment, right? And you might not see the player in front of the player who charged it down.
Again, we've used the word deliberate a lot here, a deliberate act. And the deliberate act of the red player charging down here all goes forward to another red player.
Yeah.
And although within the charge down definition, if you charge it down and it goes forward, it's not forward. If it goes forward to somebody of your own team, they're offside.
Yeah.
It's not counted as a knock on, but the offside applies here because he's in front of the last player whose deliberate act was to play the ball to a player who's.
And it's something like, I mean, especially for sort of referees coming up, you need a lot of composure to be able to get this right? Because often you go like, oh, it's a charge down, everyone's on side.
Well, that would be the simplest way of writing it.
Yeah.
If it's a charge down, it's not a knock on. And if it's a charge down, everybody's on side, whether you're in front or behind.
Well, I mean, if they allowed this, it'll be crazy. And then this is the one we just saw an example of, right?
Yeah, but no more crazy than the example that we saw like that when the kickers team It's no more crazy than that. The simplification would be if the ball is deliberately played, then no offside anywhere. It's not it's not offside.
That'll be crazy. But remember when the 10-meter law was a circle, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With guys around it before.
We made it as simple as people would be wary of charging down the ball.
Yeah.
Because there is a risk at going for a charge down. But because in that first example, the in the Premiership where the player scored, everybody thought that's not really fair. That's not right. But it's luck of the laws, rub of the green, call it what you like.
So final verdict, they obviously they should just add it to the definition, right? Yeah. Just clarify it. And I thought that something like this might be what they should add to the law is just a definition. And I mean, they never talk about blocks, right? So I mean, but that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to block a kick, right? Maybe that comes from American football or something. I don't know. But
well, it makes sense.
When a player intentionally blocks the ball with any part of their body as an opponent kicks it, that's a charge down.
Yeah.
And then because further on in the law, it does go into that it's not a knock on off the arms And it also says that the 10.4C doesn't apply, right? 10-meter law, right? So it'll be very simple if they just do that, put a clarification and, well, I mean, a definition.
Yeah.
That'll really help. So we can only hope.